Hey guys, welcome to this weekly call. So today we have Josh, Yona, and Ryan who have been working well on the master plan, presenting it. As every session, I like to start with a 2-3 minutes little embodiment or connection practice. Does anyone have something they'd like to lead?
I can lead. All right, so as you are, just find a comfortable seat. Yeah. And on an inhale here, start to pick your shoulders up, peel them back, and then down. And again, inhale up, expand your chest, lift your sternum up, and then exhale down. And again, just softening the shoulders, peeling them up, back, and then down. Allow your palms to rest either on your lap or your knees, palms facing upwards. And just allow your eyes to soften naturally, so not forcing your eyelids closed. In to observe your breath, the inhale to exhale, just as you are. Bring your attention now to the point just behind your forehead, what we call the midbrain. Just allow your awareness to rest right at that midpoint. Bring your awareness down to your throat, the center of your expression. What is it that you are here to express today? Moving your awareness down to the center of your heart. And just allow yourself, your shoulders to soften even further. Feel the skin relax even more and drop into the seat of your heart. Maybe you've just noticed a slight energetic shift. Maybe a feeling of expansion as we come together in the collective heart space here to co-create over the next hour, hour and a half. Move your awareness down to your belly, your gut, the seat, the house of your intuition. What insights, inspirations is your intuition guiding you right at this moment? Let's all take a collective inhale in together and an audible exhale. And again, smooth inhale. Audible exhale if you feel comfortable. One final one. Smooth inhale. Letting go completely on the exhale. When you feel ready to come back into the space, gently peel open your eyelids. Thank you, everyone, for your presence.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
So today, super exciting. Thank you, Josh, Yano, and Ryan for working on that master plan. And I'll just let you guys drive the call now? Is that cool? Keep it 1 hour if that's okay. But yeah.
Cool. Do you want me to go over the vision and mission area? Explain it.
Yeah, I think we should just flow through the whole document. I can share my screen and I can lead if you want, and then you guys can just plug in. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it in sections, I guess.
Host has disabled participant screen sharing. Can you give me screen share access, Alex?
Done.
Is ready? Nice. Alrighty then, what we need to do is come to here. Focus back here. All right. So this is accessible for everyone in the Notion. If you want to bring it up on your computer and go through it with us, or if you want to just watch my screen. This is the draft that we have submitted a proposal for, so nothing is final. But we are submitting this as the proposed draft so that the collective mastermind group can review and comment and propose any edits, expansions, or what have you. And yeah, the intention of this master plan, it exists to create a guiding framework for every decision or process or engagement that we partake in as a collective within the domain of the Light Leaders Mastermind. So yeah, this is kind of our overarching foundational document. So that is kind of explained here in an opening paragraph, and then we just get into it. Most importantly, and at the top of the list, is how do we make decisions? So we follow what's called the ACT process. After agreeing and adopting to this process, then you will become part of the decision making within the group, but you have to first review what is the ACT process, and acknowledge within the group that you have done so by agreeing to a proposal that exists at this link. You can click here to see what is the ACT process, and bring yourself up to speed. So that is there as the first order of operation explained. The one key thing to note here is a difference between
one thing on the ACT process. As we use it, that's not so clear to me. Is there, do we need everyone to say I agree, or do we need people to not have objection, and what's the time frame? I looked a bit, but there was like, I was bouncing from documents to documents and couldn't find.
Yeah, the intention of the ACT process is to create total coherence within the collective. So, okay. But also under the premise of a solutionary culture. So if someone objects but doesn't have a solution, then their objection isn't going to go very far, right? Like you can say, I don't want to do that, but if you don't have a proposed better alternative, then like just not wanting something isn't justifiable to stop the rest of the group from moving forward necessarily. And in terms of having everyone agree, what we've implemented in this master plan, which comes up later, is a 10-day window from a proposal being posed to the group. Then everyone within the mastermind has 10 days to review it. And if there's no major objections, then it's going to get passed whether or not inactive members are paying attention.
And there's
But it
no
gives
minimum of people saying, I agree if I put a proposal and 10 days, there's no objection and no one said anything and no one said, I agree. Is it passed?
The first one should be passed. The act should have everyone before they come in and do any work. They should have at least agreed to that minimally by now and said, I agree. So it's not automatic. Everything else becomes automatic. If they want to work, they have to look at the past proposals, what's been passed, and basically either agree to them, basically agree to anything that's been passed so that they know. Otherwise, they're not coherent and they come in and they make all these mistakes and they have to train them and then they're lost on calls and all that stuff. That doesn't work.
Okay, I'll make a change. I have at the moment a proposal submitted, but so I said if it's no major objection within a week, it's passed. I'll change that to 10 days, and that's good.
I would just get everyone that's going to be a part to go through it and say I agree to any past proposals from here out. And same with the master plan. Like let's keep reminding people, like, here's the link, guys. I put both links in the chat and say, like, you know, one more chance, you know, or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in that vein of thought, you can't create a proposal and then not tell anyone that it exists and then no one votes for it. And then 10 days later, you're like, yay, I get what I want. So you have to at least put some effort forward to like letting the group know.
Okay.
Especially now.
Yeah, which again is something we get to later in this master plan document. So
okay, thanks. That's clear.
So then one key thing within this first section of the master plan is a difference between solutions and preferences. We typed up a document here that goes a little bit more in depth on that, but the basic premise is that the direction and overarching intentions and goals of the Light Leaders Mastermind are not going to change based on one individual's preference. And that within the scope and agreement field that is this master plan and our overarching intention, that's the direction that we all intend to go. You're not going to propose to paint the walls pink when everyone else wants them to be brown, as Josh always says. So there's a difference between solutions and preferences, clearly defined there. Then we typed up an intention for the Light Leaders Mastermind. To summarize this, it's to attract conscious light leaders who are already in alignment with new paradigm approach to living and operating and engaging with one another on an individual and business collective level. And in the process of attracting them, begin educating them and then empowering their decision to join the Light Leaders Mastermind, where they can then start applying this new education that they're gaining around decentralized tech, decentralized government, decentralized economic protocols. And then once our ecosystem is developing and these people are becoming more aware of how to do all these things, we have a much larger ecosystem that we can bring their community and their platforms and everything into. So yeah. That's the intention there. We have our avatars then, which are the learners who I just mentioned we're attracting, who then become builders through the process of education, as was previously mentioned. And then we have another potential avatar that we refer to as a connector or educator. You can think of the people who have spoken at our events in the past. They might be 10 years or more already into the space of decentralization, but are still interested in being a part of the community and still interested in connecting with other like-minded people and potentially interested in educating the aforementioned learners. So those are our avatars. Then here we get into like representation and marketing, both internally and externally. Just a brief overview of how we engage with one another internally. The basic premise is that we don't tell like if you're part of a team or a group, say there's 4 of you, one person doesn't go to the whole mastermind of 50 people and say, hey guys, like we're doing this now, without first checking in with the other 3 members of their team to make sure that that's okay to share. And then externally, just brief overview, we promote ourselves in alignment with the principles and values that are mentioned later in this document. So we embody the truth that we are intending to bring into the world. Okay, local vision. What we determined here is catalyzing 144 light leaders of self-empowered and self-governed individuals to bring lasting solutions to future generations. With a more global vision of world self-governance where solutions and purpose are abundant, we see a thriving future where we are unleashed to reach our full potential together in an omni-beneficial world where all needs are met, including the needs of nature. So returning to natural law and creating a space of thriving in abundance for all parties involved. This is something that we can get into as a group. There's a lot of points here and perhaps even further ones that, for example, Stephanie, Alex, you could add. And this mission is more in alignment with how exactly we're going to bring this vision to life, which runs a little bit in line with the intention mentioned here, but there was a lot of information going on here, so we didn't take the full liberty of setting anything in stone, so to speak. So this is something that can still be expanded on. Here we have the scope, which is, again, rough draft document that could be expanded on. I don't know how good my connection is, so I don't know if it will load, but that's a scope of the different things that we're working on. Document there to be checked out and commented on as anyone sees fit. Then we have our values and principles here. We have 8 overarching values. And then within each, I'm creating toggle lists here, but haven't yet got them done for everything. But within each value, then there's a bit of expansion and definition. So you'll be able to check those out there. Agreement fields attached to these principles and values. So for example, what does this mean? Like, what is an agreement field around purity? How do we maintain purity? How do we maintain clarity? So those exist here in this document, which you can just click on. So yeah, that covers the basic overarching essence of the Light Leaders Mastermind as a whole. Then we transition into how we operate. So we have roles and teams, basic
Question?
explanation. Yeah.
We were going to take the principles and create them as a toggle list above each agreement. Is that still something we plan to do, or are we just gonna have everyone read both?
Right here. I'm in the process of doing it right now. I just didn't get finished copy pasting before this call. So we have a truth-oriented principle, and then we have like what composes being truthful, and its definition, and then the coinciding agreement fields are accessible in this document, and their numbers are in direct accordance. So if you wanted to see, for example, the agreement field of 2J accountability, then you go into this document and you go to 2J and you have the agreement field here.
And I would say, just to clarify, more importantly than if you want to, agreements are critical to agree to. So because you're agreeing to them. So it's very, very critical to go through it and make sure you're in full alignment with it or ask questions.
Yeah. If we're moving forward as a group, then we need to all be operating within the same agreement field. So the other thing to note within all of this is that if at any point we feel like this information can be consolidated, like we for sure can make it less. We just wanted to make sure that we were covering everything and that there was no room for confusion. But if in reading you feel like things can be consolidated, then please pose it to the group and we can pursue doing that. Yeah. Okay, so then roles and teams. Basic definition. Here you can find roles that are already established and a developing list. Some just general principles to touch on. This we need to get more into as a group, which is contingent upon how we decide to take the next steps. But start establishing groups as opposed to just roles, so that people are like, for example, if we have like a marketing team and then we have like an event team, now there's 4 of us. So those, what exactly are the key initial teams in the next months is something we can discuss. And then here's a process for how to create a new team. Do it following the ACT process, create a proposal, pose it to the group. It can be further discussed on calls as needed. If you're onboarding into a new role, similarly, you propose that the role be created within the dynamic of the team that needs it, and then create a proposal. If it needs to be talked about on calls, then it will be, and then you onboard into that role.
There's also there's also agreements to support those things that have to do with like making sure you're not ditching roles and whatnot. So, and the relocating process that we don't have to pass it with this, but we do have to create it, and it can pass separately and be added to this document.
So that's a perfect transition. Then if for whatever reason you're currently operating within a role that you don't want to continue operating within for any number of reasons, we encourage that you transition out of that role in a way that is coherent with productivity within the team. So you don't just like abandon the role and leave everyone else screwed, for example. If it's because of some kind of not seeing eye to eye between 2 or more people, then we encourage a process of first one-on-one connection to talk about the issue. Second, to invite a third party, another member of the mastermind, to serve as a middleman and coach. And if that still is not working, then this document does not yet exist, but we would like to, as a group, come up with some kind of reconciliation process. So how can we effectively bypass conflict and move towards coherency? So this 3-step process is proposed, as opposed to 2 people just bickering at each other. So yeah, then a little bit more on relocating and transitioning into accountability, just some basic points on how we're going to keep each other accountable. When you have a role, what is the scope of your ability to create within that role is outlined and highlighted here. Basic big thing here, but it's really important, is do not just assume that you have a role. Don't just start acting on behalf of the group without making sure that the group is in alignment with the actions you're taking. Once you've been assigned a role and everyone has agreed to that, then within the scope of that role, you are free to act. It's a decentralized organization, but yeah, Josh.
Just on accountability, I just want to add another facet is we're not there yet, but in the future, if we have an access-based coin that shows that you've contributed, or and badges and stuff, the accountability, there could be like an energy token that shows that you've been following the agreements and that you're keeping the flow of energy. And those kind of tokens and coins could be attached to things like your rent, just for accountability. So right now there's absolutely no monetary accountability. It's just between us. But as you know, in society, money can be used as an accountability. So in the future, we can decide if we need more accountability, we could tie it to a coin of some sort.
Yeah, as we scale and get a tokenomic structure in place, I think that's a potentially really valid point. Yeah, right now, I think with the dynamic of where we're at and the scope of what we're working on, it's more just like a peer-to-peer accountability system. But again, if I didn't mention this at the beginning, sorry, but this whole document is subject to editing at any point via a proposal in the ACT process. So even new members who come on, if they see something missing or something that they think should be changed, they still have a voice, and they can follow through with proposing via the ACT process. So yeah, this whole document is subject to expansion at all times. Yeah, so where was I? Scope of ability to create within the role. It's pretty basic, but all roles are part of a team. Don't assume that you have the right to do something without first making sure that that's clarified within the scope of your role. A little bit on how teams interact with one another. At this point, we figured it would be best to have each team appoint like one individual who communicates with the other teams. So for example, if there's 5 teams, each with 5 people, and 3 of those teams need to like communicate with each other about something, you don't have 15 people like trying to figure something out. They're just like one person from each of those 3 teams is like the contact point. So then the team would decide what they need to decide. The contact point would talk to the other contact point, and keep things as efficient as possible, as opposed to just a clusterfuck of communication. And then we talk a bit about how roles interact with one another. Re-highlight
Paused.
No more, Do you want to keep going, Josh, if he freezes for?
How teams, how roles interact with each other. Yeah, so there's global roles. And then local, the pool, I'll explain the pool. It's when someone wants to come into a team. So as we have all these teams going and we have full teams and we're not accepting people, someone still may want to be a part of it in the future. And so I'll have to share my screen now. Let's get over here. And then they would wait in the pool until, here we go. They would wait into the pool until they can get in. And we have something to do with badges, is education. And that signifies, it's kind of like, yeah, you have access because you're a contributor to things, but can you fly the plane? Well, probably not unless you have the badge or the education that says that you know how to fly that plane. Same with anything. If you're coming into a group and you don't know how to communicate, then you're going to waste their time because they're already in momentum and they have to stop and train you and stop and train new people. So before you even come onto a team, you've got the education. And in the meantime, you wait in that pool. And then when someone needs it, when a role shifts, they can pick someone up right away instead of having to wait. It's a very good system. Culture code is how we interact on calls. So there's a document here on it. This we want to turn into the call. So we want to attach this to the calendar, for example, and have it where when you're in a calendar right here, it says what type of meeting is it? It's a facilitation, mastermind, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What kind of, culture code are we using? Hand signals, this kind of beginning, this kind of ending, da-da-da-da-da. And so people know what they're getting into before they get into the call. And they know how to act, and we don't have to do that. You can have videos, links to who's on the call and their name, and they can go, oh, here's a 3-minute video, so you don't have to do a 30-minute introduction. All right. You want to continue, Yano?
If you're flying, go for it. My service cut,
Okay.
guys, sorry.
Okay, and so that's the culture code. So we need to integrate that and develop it. And once again, go over it together as a team. And this is an open repository. This is a flowing document. It's not, it has to be like this. This is pick and choose for each call. So it's optional, completely optional. So we can all add to it, but we add to it on a call, not just by yourself. Use of information. So this is a little bit about IP, a general thing. There's more agreements and stuff to support this. It's saying we are solutionaries that utilize public knowledge and collective intelligence to form an open access, not open source, open to all members, repository that supports our meeting the basic needs of all contributors, as well as solving the solutions we intend to solve. Keep IP to yourself. But if you want to bring it into the collective intelligence, you can turn it into an intellectual creation and a shared works that we can start to morph. It'll instantly probably turn into something else because we'll all start building on it. If it's not IP, then it's not IP. I mean, there's a lot of people think they have IP, but then they protect it and they do all these things, and then you go through all this drama, and then you actually look it up and you, oh, actually, that's not even your IP. Someone else actually owns that. So if it's either IP or it's not. All right. Funds and fund distribution. Go through that section. Initial funding strategies. This is where we all really want to come in, and maybe even on this call, look at this.
Yeah, I think it's important within this funding stuff that we developed to take a detailed look at this two-staged approach that we propose, just to make sure that they understand what we're talking about before they go in and read it. But
down here, right here.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is a very good one. Do you want to go over it? Go ahead.
I can, yeah.
I'll scroll as we go.
It's been a few weeks since we did this. I don't remember the exact numbers or details explicitly, but basically we decided that until we have much more money, that we'd operate within a stage 1 outlook, and that once we got to $50,000, then we'd be in a much more financially abundant position that would allow people to get paid significantly more and allow for much larger development. So there is a stage 1 set of criteria that we established, and then a stage 2 set of criteria that we established. And we just arbitrarily chose $50,000 US as the amount that would be enough financial abundance to enter stage 2. Again, the exact numbers are something that we can discuss as a group, but this is what the 3 of us collectively came to as reasonable. So.
And we have these pools overflowing, like once it's supported, this is the most important, then it'll overflow to 2, which is the next most important, and so on and so forth for operations. And we tried to keep, it as logical as possible. And we're totally open for other ideas. Percents can sometimes be, great, and sometimes they cannot work. So we'll just decide what you think there. And we do have a glitch in the matrix because we have pools here, funding pools, and we have the pool. So we needed to decide what we're going to do there on those names, so we don't get confused. And then here's some extras about fund number 1, about paying people, basically. Contributions versus getting paid. We can contribute. We decided to use the seeds model and allow contribution so that we can sort of gain more momentum in the beginning. And you can earn a little bit more potentially if you do that way. And then there's a stage 2 after 50,000. So this could be any day. We could be hopping over to just stage 2 immediately, potentially. We don't know, right? So basic needs have been met. I think there's a value in taking the stage 1 approach to the beginning, because you start to understand, like it says in stage 2, your basic needs are met. Like even setting up that program, it's really nice to make sure that everyone's contributing and that that's going smoothly and that accountability has been done and the organization's being done right. So you may even start, even if you had 50,000, as if you don't, just to kind of test out the system. And then you can run into a stage 2, your basic needs are met, and you have all that stuff set up. Okay, and then it's just, once again, it's emergency fund, you know, money for your next steps, money for your basic needs, money for the ecosystem, and then an investment pool. Okay, so we added all that in, and you can, as you grow, what you do is you get to turn this basic needs. It can turn from housing and food into plane rides and helicopter access. You know, not only the access, if we had a helicopter together in a water park that you get to access every day, but we could also have, you know, basic needs be so much more than just basic needs. So it could literally be everything. Yano?
I just wanted to say, within the dynamic of the point you addressed, because it's a potentially hot topic of conversation that you passed over really quick, is the investment pool in stage 2.
Yeah.
It's just something that we put in there, guys, because if we do have 50,000 in the account, for example, it's possible that we invest some of it to produce more money for the Light Leaders Mastermind, but we would have to collectively agree on that. But it is a viable option. Like we did that in line with, you know, if you were an individual and we were advising how to use your money, we would advise you to invest before you just sat there and saved. So if we extrapolate that to our business, it's a good idea. So that's why that's there.
Yeah, and I could see that turning into, you know, it's using collective intelligence versus each individual researching all the places and testing their own investments. People are very squirrely when it comes to how who they invest their money with, and they pretty much do it on their own because no one trusts anyone else. So we're going to have a whole collective intelligence running this, and it'll probably make a lot more than other people. So we'll probably be able to allow other people to put their money in and have a percent go to back to the funding pool itself. I'm sure.
And
Coherency.
Sorry, there also takes into consideration that other cells where, you know, where they adopt this certain model, if we want to invest in their token, they want to invest in ours, so that also allocates that investment pool is for projects like that as well, that we invest in projects that we believe in.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
And
Coherency. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounded like you didn't remember when we created this, but the coherency section is how we plug into the developing overarching ASPO that our ASPO is coming into, which is not yet established, but as at least Stephanie and Alex, everyone here on the call knows, there are a lot of other ASPOs in development, and we're all moving in the direction of operating within the same ecosystem. So this section exists just to clarify the role, if you will, of Light Leaders Mastermind within the larger level ecosystem. And that's not yet explicitly clear because that ecosystem is not yet fully established. So right now, this just highlights that we're moving in that direction and gives a few bullet points on how. But as that ecosystem establishes itself and the role of Light Leaders Mastermind within that ecosystem becomes more clear, we can expand this section to a more explicit, detailed kind of definition of where we're at within the ecosystem that we're partaking.
Yeah, and I want to add that, you know, there's 144 light leaders, and probably a light leader is probably going to have their own organization. So this could be 144 organizations. And this is a roadmap for coming together. And there, you know, we may put a section here that says, you know, 2 ecosystems, ? Because look at the criteria. Some people may not fit it. They may need to become a level 1, for example, and start to transition. So there may be a level 1 ecosystem that's formed that people are still transitioning, and they would they would need help doing that, for example. Like they have shareholders and special interests and stuff that just can't come into the bubble because it doesn't flow with our sense making and it doesn't, work easily with what we're doing. So we didn't put that in there, but we can add to it if we want to talk about having multiple ecosystems.
Yeah, I mean, right now, two
Talked about it.
ecosystems don't exist for us to talk about, so it's not pertinent in this
later.
space. But again, this whole document is subject to expansion when necessary via the ACT process. So.
And the last thing is the next steps, which once again, we want to really do together. We did the best we could. But that's it. You can look at it, we can add to it. And some of these have to do with the master plan because we wanted to finish the master plan. So we wanted to get some of these things in the top are about that.
Yeah, there's some documents within the master plan that are not yet finalized. But certain things like, for example, the coaching process and the reconciliation process, like I'm not a coach that specializes in those things. Ryan, I don't know if you are, but Josh, I don't think you are. So another part of those being unfinished is like, if we have someone who's a more specialized coach and such a dynamic within the Light Leaders Mastermind already, then it would be highly beneficial to have someone talk with them about creating those documents so that they were actually the highest quality product we're capable of producing.
I can help.
Yeah, so that's a little bit that's going on there. Submaster plans we need to make once we determine what the teams are that need to be established beyond just marketing and events, if there is anything. And then, yeah, a couple other things. But yeah, that's the short of it. There's a lot in here, but once it's established and every member of the governance team, decision-making team has agreed to it, then we have a very solid framework that's very clear, a system within which we operate, and it allows us to function in a more decentralized fashion in a much more efficient way because everyone's on the same page in a very clear fashion. So
should we put this? Oh, sorry. Should we put this in the submitted process? In the advice process, and should we have people commenting here, creating comments to add into these sections that aren't done yet, like these things? Use the comments, or you can use your own color ink. If you have a solution, if you just have a comment, that's cool. But I've noticed when people say, "Oh, I don't like this" or something, it's like, put a solution. So if you don't like it, great. Put your own color ink below it and put a solution, or note it on another piece of paper. I don't know our access level to this.
So Josh, as far as I understand what's going on, then yes, we will move this to the advice process immediately after this call. The premise of this call was to introduce the rough draft product to the group. Now we will move the proposal to the advice process, and in alignment with preferences versus solutions, as stated in the beginning of the document, like, yeah, do what Josh said. You can comment anywhere, propose anything that's missing or should be edited, and we'll do our best as a group to finalize the product within 10 days.
All right.
Any questions, Alex or Stephanie?
For me, it's pretty clear. I'll take some time to review it and the few I'll go through it. The few things I'm definitely interested is from this. It's like how is it applied? So one thing is it can look a bit intimidating, I feel, or overwhelming for if we want any member of the mastermind to go through that. That's one thing. And then relating to that feels still, yeah, it'd be good to have tools that enforce and automate things. So, so people, it's harder for people to assume, and they actually have to go through a process. Yeah, I don't know, for example, that things are more automated. Let's say I take on a role and I get paid, that's on chain. I took that role, I get paid. When the thing is passed, it gets automatically, the fund gets given to me, something like this, because at the moment it looks great on paper. And in fact, it's actually like I can start moving my card in Notion to Past, and I can start paying myself, or I can start sending fund to Ryan, or it's still quite centralized in that way. Still a few people holding the Notion or and I know we're all well intentioned, but that's something I have also in mind for scaling. But for now, I think it's amazing so far, and I'll go through it and put my recommendations.
To build off of or riff off of what you were just talking about, Alex, like that's another thing that we determined as important to create teams. So for example, there would be an accounting team, not just an accounting role. So then there would be like 3 people involved. So then, for example, there wouldn't be the ability for one person to like create a proposal, pass it, and pay themselves, because there's at least 2 other people on the accounting team who that would have to get verified through first. So then there's at least 2 other people that would check the proposal before any payment could be passed. And that's just then at least 2 other people that are reminding the group, like, hey, check this proposal. And yeah, it's like,
it's a bit oligarchic, then it's like a group of people that have power. So it's, but yeah, there has to be. But
I mean, they have power within the domain of power that has been allocated to them via the approval of the rest of the group, right? Like, I don't want to pay attention to accounting 24/7, so I agree to allow the accounting team to have that power.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the trustless crypto world, the idea is that it's very trustless, a lot of the thing we do.
We could for sure either find a tool that does this for us or create our own, and on a decentralized ledger, establish smart contracts that take care of it for us in an automated fashion. But until we get there, we're still human.
I would definitely like to have it kind of as an intention to get there when it's more realistic in
the for sure
we have, and
if we can automate proposal and payment process via smart contracts on the blockchain, like, I think that's amazing. And then
I think we all agree on this.
And that's something, for example, that you could highlight within the master plan document and say, hey, I think as part of stage 2, like, one of the initial funding things should be to pursue development of such technology.
I think that'd be really helpful, especially if you know you're claiming to invest for other people. Cool.
Stephanie?
Yay! I was waiting already for my turn. Wow, guys, like, I think now I know why I'm here, because I think it's, I would say, like, I'm the one who is still a newbie in this world. So I think it's very important for the light leaders who are joining the mastermind that there is maybe an onboarding manager who is doing kind of an individual interview with people who are interested to join, and that this onboarding manager kind of has the whole overview where this person is standing, or where the organization behind this light leader is standing, and then that there's like this onboarding manager who is kind of leading this for this interested participant, that it's maybe not too overwhelming, because I feel like I also want to read through everything, but it's because I also have time, because maybe I don't have like this big organization behind myself. So yeah, there is this idea of maybe having like a specific person who is really taking time for people who are interested, and then having a more effective integration, and not having to go through all of it, because it's very overwhelming for me. But yeah, since I'm like, I mean, I feel like, wow, that's so much masculine, like a lot of structure, but it's the process right now. For me, it was like, whoa, am I in the right reality right now, because it's a lot. But I think that's the most, that's the process right now, bringing up a structure and having clear foundations and walls, where to go, where not to go. And yeah, that's amazing. Thank you guys for bringing all of that together.
Maybe, just a thought, could be a video, and then people get all what's being said done. It also, as it's a small team going forward, once everyone kind of understands how it's working, a lot of these things will be automatic in the system. So whether someone reads them in the master plan or not, like I said, maybe it turns into a video and the master plan backs that up. So when they do something wrong, you go, whoa, hold on. Remember this, you're supposed to have read the master plan, but you watch the video and it did tell you that that's not how that works or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a valuable thing to highlight as well, that like in order to become part of the decision-making process, people don't only need to go through the ACT process and understand that, they also need to read through the entire master plan and or watch a video that is not yet created. That's cool. And then Stephanie, I think it's beautiful if you wanted to take a role as guiding people through an onboarding process. Like if someone joins and wants to become part of the core team and start, understanding everything that's going on, it will definitely take at least a day or two of information integration. And right now, I think one person could suffice in helping those individuals like review the master plan and understand what it means and find a role for themselves. So I think that's beautiful.
After you review it.
Yeah.
Yeah, first I have to go through that. Yeah, because it's because I don't have like the big picture on all the fields and topics you have already. So yeah, I mean, I could see myself doing that when I'm also reach this kind of horizon in this field.
Cool. I think it's a super important role, and I think it's beautiful if it's embodied by a feminine as well, because it brings really good balance to the inherently masculine structure of what the document is. So I think that's awesome. And probably there will be an influx of people heading into and after the event, just to bring that to the surface. So if in the next couple of weeks you wanted to really take the time to understand this document and had any questions, feel free to reach out to me at least. I can help you get up to speed with that before the event in 2 weeks, because I think we'll have at least 5 or 10 more people joining around that time. So.
And systems are made of a good balance of processes and structures. So there are some processes, as you've seen already in there. There's a lot to still be developed, like the coaching you saw. So those are all the feminine aspects of it. And it's kind of like the structure keeps us from like falling off the edge, or, but it doesn't necessarily keep us from running into each other. So we're kind of like running through this, maze or something, right? And it's a little funky, and then until we get those feminine processes, then it becomes smooth, like a video game or something, you know.
Just a bunch of guys fighting to get to the end of the match. We're all on a team, guys. Fuck you, I'm gonna win.
I think I have to read first through the new team, creating a new team, and then having like more systems here to balance.
Right, and again, it's also powerful to highlight that the document was created assuming scalability. Like, looking at this document in the context of 5 people is not the same as looking at it in the context of 100 or 200 or 300. So,
and culture code's all about process. So also it's another one in there that's completely process.
cool. So Josh, Ryan, is there anything that we want to say to anyone who's potentially watching this recording?
Get into there and check it out and give your comments, and let's move forward.
Yeah,
I agree.
It can be, yeah, it can look or feel rather a little intimidating, but if you actually look down at the details, they are, quite simple to understand line by line. So
It's a very interesting
and
read.
a lot of it.
I think once you guys go through it, the next call is going to be a lot different. I think you're going to be interested and excited about the points you've read and whatnot.
Yeah.
something tangible, right? Over the last 2 months that we've been sort of on these calls and it's up in the air. So this is, I feel, all of that grounded in one document. I was going to say simple document, but it's quite comprehensive, so it does cover all the bases, but it's important that we are all in alignment before we continue to any other next step.
And I guess I would suggest going through the document and maybe taking a break, and then maybe getting into the agreements and principles separately afterwards, so that it's chunked out. That's probably the heaviest part of it.
And also a lot of it is common, like a lot of the agreements and principles, if you're part of this community and are in alignment with us as human beings in this movement, then you will likely feel like a lot of it is borderline common sense, but it's still worth reviewing so that you can see it and explicitly agree to.
And we do want to chop them down. We do want to consolidate them. So that is the goal within provided by Green Earth Vision and Helix. And the goal is to chop them down and consolidate them. So
Cool. So that's the master plan now in advice process.
Thanks so much, guys.
Sorry, one final comment. If you have any questions, please also feel free, if you are watching this, to reach out to Yono, Josh, or myself.
Or comment in the document, but you can also message us.
Even asking likely rather than contacting one of the people. I mean, if it feels appropriate, I'd rather that people post in likely those builders like this, it would be shared more.
Right, and if you're not yet part of the Light Leaders Builders group and would like to be, you can ask us in the Light Leaders Mastermind group.
can we check out with a hand signal or a face gesture?
That has to be in the core, in the values, in the culture codes.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Thanks so much,
guys.
All right. Ciao.